Okay, we are officially recording, okay?
Okay.
So, yesterday we talked about multiplying polynomials. And we talked about it's basically just using the distributive property, right? It's first the x times x, and then the x times the plus 2. And then it's the 4 times the x, and then the 4 times the plus 2. There's a whole different way of thinking about this that actually gets you to do exactly the same thing. So in a way, it's kind of ridiculous that I'm teaching you two ways that actually ends up working exactly the same. Yes?
I have a question on last night's homework.
Okay.
When sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what if it is like 5x and then you do the distributive property to the negative?
Like, can you, so 5x, so if you had 5x
And then
times, say, x minus 6,
yeah, and then you're
so then this would be 5x squared, right? And this would be 5 times negative 6 is what?
do the math.
Yeah, negative 30x.
Okay.
Negative 30x.
Oh, so you just
Yeah, so the x stays with it, right? The x stays with it. And you just multiply the numbers.
But when you do 5x, okay, that makes sense.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. So good question.
Are we supposed to write that down?
No, that was just answering her question really fast. So this is you're gonna end up doing exactly the same thing. It's just that you're gonna be thinking of it in a totally different way. So, and the reason I teach it is because you will see it in Algebra 2. They will use this a lot. I don't know of any teacher that doesn't use this. The trouble with FOIL is that it only works for a binomial times a binomial. What you learned yesterday works for everything. It works for a monomial times a binomial, a monomial times a trinomial, a binomial times a binomial, a binomial times a trinomial times a trinomial, a polynomial times a polynomial. Works for everything. What you learned yesterday works for everything, right? This only works for a binomial times a binomial. So I have a binomial times a binomial. Yes?
Is this a monomial still polynomial?
Ironically, yes. A monomial is a polynomial. To me, that's a contradiction of terms, and I squeal every time I think of it that way. But it is technically a monomial is a polynomial. It's one of the things that a polynomial could represent. Right? Okay, so what we have to FOIL is an acronym. What's an acronym? Yes.
The word stands for something else, it may not even be.
Right, exactly. So, all right, so F O I L. FOIL, the F stands for first. First. The O stands for outside. The I stands for inside. And the L stands for last. As Sal was saying. It was right on. Very, 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 like you'll hear everybody talk about FOIL. Right? And the reason why is because in Algebra 1 we do a lot of binomials times binomials. We're going to be moving into that in a little bit. And that's actually, how many people saw the word problem that I put on the board for the 8th graders today? Right? It was kind of complex.
It said it was like height 2 and 16
Yeah.
squared.
Right, exactly. And those kind of problems are actually usually binomials times binomials. In that particular case, it was a monomial times a binomial, but oftentimes they're binomial times binomial. So what we got to do is figure out what is first, what is outside, what is inside, and what is last. Okay, this is a binomial. This is a binomial. What is the first term in Emma? Tell me, what is the first term in this binomial? The first term. x, right? That's the first thing as you go from left to right. The first thing is x. Now here's another binomial. What's the first in this one? X, right. So so your f is this. That's your first and that's your first. Does that make sense? All right. Now what about outside? Now we can't deal with just binomial and binomial separately. We're looking at the whole thing. It's like a big house. And where is the outside edges of this house? Domenica. X and 2. Those are my outsides. The outside is here, X, and the outside is here, 2. So that's my O's. So O and O. And then now think about it again with the I for the inside. I'm thinking this is my whole house again. What are my inside terms?
4 and X.
4 and X, exactly. So that's my inside. Inside. Right? And then now think about, now we're going to go back to binomial and binomial. What is the last term of this binomial? 4. And the last term of this binomial? 2. So that's my L and my L. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So eventually you'll get to the point where you get it really well. So first, outside, inside, last. Try it again. First, outside, inside, last.
Oh, I got it.
First, outside, inside, last. First, outside, inside, last. Right? Now think about it. That is exactly what you did last night. First, you multiply this one times this, right? And then outside, boom, you multiplied this one times that. And then inside, boom, you multiplied this times this. And then last, boom, you multiplied this times this. It's exactly the same thing. So why do I teach this? And why do math teachers use it so much? Because eventually we're going to start factoring trinomials. We're going to eventually start factoring things like this. X squared, I don't know, plus 3x plus 2.
Yeah, I was learning.
And there is a way to factor that. There is a way to factor that with 2 binomials. Right? And so we're going to be learning eventually how to factor that. And using the concept of outsides and insides and lasts are really useful when you're doing that. So that's why I teach the FOIL, even though you technically don't need it. But it can be really useful. It will be this year. I just don't know exactly. I got to look at the Saxon when they're going to get into that. They're already getting into it a little bit because they talked about this multiplying polynomials. And did they talk about FOIL? Did they say that in the book? I don't think they did. But in essence, that's what you're doing when you're multiplying binomial times binomial. So that's FOIL. So let's try one. So let's try this. What are my first? If I want, I could do it like this. I can go like this vertically. It's not how you normally do it. Once you get used to it, you probably do it differently. You probably do it horizontally. But let's try it this way first. First, x times x is
X squared.
x squared. Okay, outside. X times 2 is
2x.
2x. Okay, inside. 4 times x is
4x.
4x. And outside, what is last?
Last.
4 times 2 is 8. Okay. Now notice these two can be combined to what?
6x.
6x. So my final thing is x squared plus 6x plus 8. Right?
That's pretty cool.
Isn't that cool? So, and eventually you'll start doing, let's do another one. We'll do it horizontally.
Wait.
Let's try this. X
I was looking at
plus
Jason's homework in the car, and he showed me how to factor that.
at whose homework?
Jason,
Oh,
he showed me how to factor that, so that would be like,
this one?
yeah. So then that would turn into that because
Exactly.
you do multiples
Yeah.
of 8 that add up to 6.
exactly factors of 8 that add up to 6. Factors of 8, in other words, multiples of 8. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 plus 4 is 6. 2, 4. Interesting. It's not that hard. It's actually really fun. It's my favorite part of Algebra 1. This stuff. My favorite part, hands down. No question about it. All right, plus 3.
Wait.
All right, now let's do it horizontally. First, x times x is x squared. Outside, 3 times x, or x times 3. So it's a positive, right? So plus 3x, 8x. Am I recording this? I guess I am. 8x inside, right? 8 times x is 8x. And then last, 8 times 3 is 24. Right? 8 times 3 is 24.
How did this one get so much longer?
Because look, this one we had things that are like terms. We still have like terms here. They're just horizontal now. We've got to combine those. So x squared plus 11x plus 24. And that's our answer. Right? So that's using the FOIL method. And ironically, it's exactly what you did last night. You just didn't even know you knew FOIL. Right? So that's cool. So I think I'm going to stop this lecture. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'll just keep going.
No, stop it.
Because, well, I want to cover a couple more things. The question is, will it fit with this foiling? I'd rather just, I'm going to stop it and then restart it.